There is a moment in adulthood, impossible to predict, impossible to forget, when all the gears stop working at once. The goals that drove your days reveal themselves to be pieces of a game whose rules no one ever explained properly. The work that consumes your hours loses its shine of importance. Relationships that seem solid show their silent cracks. And there, in the midst of the routine that always made sense, a question arises that cuts like glass. What is it all for? It's not depression. It's not a midlife crisis. It's not a lack of purpose or absence of faith. It's something deeper and more frightening. It's the stark realization that perhaps there has never been a real reason for anything we do. It's like waking up inside a dream and discovering that we've always been dreaming, but now we can't go back to sleep. This experience has a name that most people avoid uttering. It is the encounter with existential emptiness. It is the moment when the mind stops accepting automatic answers and starts asking questions that should not be asked. Why do we exist? Why do we continue? If everything ends, if nothing remains, if the universe does not care about our history, then why does history continue? Modern culture has taught us to fear this moment as if it were a disease. We rush to therapy, self-help, new projects, relationships, travel, anything that makes us feel like life has direction again. But perhaps we are running away from the only experience that can truly set us free. Perhaps this encounter with emptiness is not the end of something, but the beginning of a life that finally belongs to us. There is a man who looked into this abyss, and instead of retreating, decided to build an entire philosophy about how to dance on the edge of the precipice. His name was Albert Camus, and his response to the meaninglessness of existence may be the most courageous thing anyone has ever thought about being alive. The perception of meaninglessness is not a flaw of the mind. It is its most honest function. The first thing Camus realized about existential emptiness is that it doesn't come out of nowhere. It's not a chemical accident in the brain. It's not the result of trauma. It's not a lack of philosophical education. Emptiness arises precisely when human intelligence works the way it should, by asking honest questions about reality. Think of the child who asks why for the 10th time in a row until the exhausted adult responds, "Because I said so." The child stops asking not because they found the answer, but because they realize that the answers are over. Existential emptiness is the return of that child within us. Only now they have grown up, have responsibilities, and have discovered that the adult world also works on the basis of because it is. For years, perhaps decades, we have lived sustained by a network of borrowed meanings. The family says that meaning lies in tradition. School says it lies in knowledge. Work says it lies in productivity. Religion says it is in transcendence. Society says it is in progress. And we function well like this, like parts of a machine that produces what exactly? This machine of meanings works perfectly until the day a cog comes loose. It may be divorce that reveals the fragility of forever. It may be the dismissal that shows how professional identity was a house of cards. It may be the death of parents that leaves a void where there was once a reassuring hierarchy. Or it may simply be any afternoon when the question arises uninvited. Is this it? Awakening happens when this network is torn apart. It may be in the face of the death of someone close to us, when we realize that all the importance we attributed to that person has simply evaporated. It may be on a Monday morning, staring at the computer, when the question arises out of nowhere. What am I doing here? It may be in a conversation about the future, when we realize that we are talking about plans for a life that may not make any difference. Camus called this experience the feeling of absurdity. It is not a philosophy. It is not a theory. It is a physical sensation. It is like being in a conversation where everyone speaks a language you thought you knew, but the words have lost their meaning. It is like watching a movie without sound, trying to understand the story through the actor's gestures. There is a stark difference between knowing intellectually that life has no meaning and feeling it in your body. Intellectual knowledge can be filed away, ignored, left for later. But when absurdity knocks on the door of experience, there is no pretending it is not happening. It is like trying to ignore a toothache with philosophy. The sensation is physical. It's a weight in your chest that appears out of nowhere. A vertigo that has nothing to do with height. A nausea that doesn't go away with medicine. It's your body reacting to the discovery that you're inhabiting a world that offers no guarantees about anything. It's like discovering that you've spent your whole life on stage playing a role in a play that no one wrote. What makes this experience so disturbing is not the sadness. Sadness at least makes sense. There is a reason. There is something that can be consoled. What is disturbing is cosmic neutrality. It is realizing that the universe is not hostile to our existence. It simply does not care about it. We are like a grain of sand trying to explain the desert. We are like a musical note trying to justify the symphony. Imagine waking up every day knowing that nothing you do will matter in 100 years, that your worries are temporary, your successes are temporary, your failures are temporary, that the people you love will die, that you will die, that everything you have built will turn to dust, and yet, inexplicably, you continue to brush your teeth in the morning. That's when the human mind splits. One part wants to run back to the old meanings, even though it knows they're fragile constructs. Another part wants to give up on everything, since nothing really matters. And a third, quieter part whispers a dangerous question. What if this is an opportunity? The most common reaction is panic. The mind refuses to accept that it has spent years investing energy in constructs that may be illusory. Then begins the desperate search for a new meaning, a true meaning this time. Some people turn to spirituality, others to hedonism, others to political activism, all trying to fill the void with something solid, something that cannot be questioned again. Other times the reaction is more subtle, a chronic melancholy that settles like a fog. Life goes on, but it has lost its texture. It's as if everything is happening behind a glass. Emotions are muffled, pleasures are distant, relationships lose their urgency. It's not depression. It's as if life has lost its color but kept its movement. But Camus asked a different question. Instead of asking how to find meaning, he asked, what if we didn't need to find any meaning at all? What if emptiness wasn't a problem to be solved, but a condition to be inhabited? What if the lack of cosmic purpose was, in fact, the only thing that makes us truly free? That question changes everything. Because if we don't need an external justification for existing, if we don't need a divine or historical mission, if we don't need to prove our worth to the universe, then for the first time in our lives, we can decide for ourselves what to do with the time we have. The void ceases to be an abyss and becomes a blank space. And in a blank space, anything can be written. In the face of absurdity, there are only three responses. Two are cowardice disguised as wisdom. When Albert Camus looked at the existential void that haunts the human condition, he didn't do what most philosophers do. He didn't try to explain the void away. Instead, he mapped out the only three possible responses an honest mind can give when faced with the absence of cosmic meaning. The first door is the most seductive: philosophical suicide. It is not about taking one's own life. It is about killing the part of us that asks uncomfortable questions. It is an escape into belief systems that promise to explain everything as long as we stop questioning. Religion offers this comfort. There is a divine plan. There is a reason for suffering. There is an afterlife where everything will make sense. Political ideology does too. Revolution will save the world. The free market will solve all problems. Technology will set us free. Even science can become a refuge when turned into dogma. The universe has laws. These laws have purpose, and our role is to discover them. Camus called this philosophical suicide because it requires the death of doubt. To work, these systems need us to surrender our ability to question. They need us to accept ready-made answers to questions that may not have answers. It's like becoming a child again, but a child who has learned not to ask why. The problem is not that these beliefs are necessarily false. The problem is that once the mind has experienced absurdity, once it has felt the absence of cosmic guarantees in the flesh, it can never again be completely convinced. There will always be a little voice whispering, what if this is also just a construct? Forced faith becomes theater, and those who perform for themselves end up performing for no one. The second door is literal suicide. If nothing makes sense, if every construction of meaning is arbitrary, if we are going to die anyway, why not speed up the process? Why continue participating in a play without a script, a game without rules, a story without a guaranteed happy ending? This logic has a terrible coherence. If life is absurd, why not end it? If suffering serves no purpose, why continue it? If there is no transcendent purpose, why not choose the only act that seems definitive in a world of indefinitions? But Camus realized something crucial. Suicide does not solve the problem of absurdity. It surrenders to the problem. It's like burning the library because books ask too many questions. It's like destroying the mirror because the reflection is uncomfortable. Absurdity is not a disease of life. It is a characteristic of human consciousness. And a consciousness that destroys itself because it cannot bear its own nature is, in essence, admitting defeat. If you have come this far, it is because something in you refuses to accept either voluntary blindness or ultimate surrender. There is a third door, and it requires more courage than the other two combined. The third door is rebellion. Not political rebellion, not social rebellion, existential rebellion. It is the decision to continue living knowing that life has no cosmic justification. It is the choice to embrace the absurd rather than flee from it or succumb to it. It is saying the universe gives me no reason to exist, then I will exist without reasons. Life has no intrinsic meaning, Then I will live without needing intrinsic meaning. This revolt seems crazy to those who still seek certainties. How can someone choose to live in a condition that seems unsustainable? How can we accept that all our constructions of meaning are at heart improvisations? How can we embrace an existence that offers no guarantees about anything? Camus' answer is both simple and revolutionary, because that is the only form of true freedom we have left. When we stop waiting for the universe to give us permission to exist, when we stop seeking external justification for our presence in the world, when we accept that we are responsible for shaping our own experience, that is when we discover what it means to be truly free. But this freedom comes at a price. It requires us to bear the weight of existence without the aid of borrowed meanings. It requires us to create our own values knowing that they are not absolute. It requires us to love knowing that love is not eternal, to build knowing that everything will be destroyed, to hope knowing that there are no promises. Camus' revolt is neither optimism nor pessimism. It is something more radical. Revolt is not an ideology. It is a way of breathing when the rarefied air of existence burns the lungs. There is a huge difference between revolt as a concept and revolt as a lived experience. When Camus talks about existential revolt, he is not proposing a philosophical theory to be debated in universities. He is describing a state of mind that arises when consciousness refuses to die of suffocation in a world without metaphysical oxygen. Revolt begins in the body before it reaches the mind. It is that physical sensation of refusal that appears when someone tries to convince us that we should passively accept a reality that our deepest intuition rejects. It is like when, as children faced with an obvious injustice, something inside us screamed, "This is not right," even without being able to explain why. In adulthood, that same refusal arises in the face of the absurdity of existence. It is not an intellectual refusal, it is visceral. It is the whole body saying no to the idea that our life should conform to cosmic meaninglessness. It is the entire mind rebelling against the suggestion that we should accept our insignificance as the final verdict. But here lies the most beautiful paradox of Camusian philosophy. Rebellion does not deny the absurd, it embraces it. It's like accepting that you're in a storm but refusing to drown. It's recognizing that the sea doesn't care about you, but deciding to swim anyway. Not because it makes sense, but because swimming is your nature. Stephen Hawking, confined to a wheelchair and dependent on a computer to speak, said one of the most liberating phrases that exist. "Although I cannot move and I need a computer to speak, in my mind I am free." Hawking understood Camus' rebellion without ever having read Camus. His freedom did not depend on external circumstances. It existed in the only territory that no cosmic force can invade, the inner space of consciousness. This inner freedom is not cheap consolation or self-help in disguise. It is the recognition that even in an indifferent universe, there is something in us that can choose how to respond to that indifference. We cannot choose the cards we are dealt, but we can choose how to play them. We cannot choose to be born, but we can choose what to do with the fact that we are alive. Rebellion manifests itself in small everyday choices as much as in big existential decisions. It is choosing to be kind on a difficult afternoon, not because kindness will save the world, but because kindness is a form of refusal to accept chaos. It is creating something beautiful knowing that beauty is temporary, not because it will last forever, but because the act of creating is a declaration of war against emptiness. It is continuing to love even after discovering that love is no guarantee of anything. It is working even though you know that all work is temporary. It is dreaming even though you know that dreams may not come true. It is fundamentally the decision to live as if life matters, even without cosmic evidence that it does. There is something almost heroic in this stance. Not the heroism of great battles, but the quiet heroism of those who wake up every day and choose to participate in existence without asking permission from the universe. It is like Sisyphus, the mythological character condemned to push a boulder up a mountain for eternity, knowing that it will always roll back down. Camus said that we should imagine Sisyphus happy, not because his task has meaning, but because he has found a form of dignity within the very meaninglessness of it. With each turn of the rock, Sisyphus has the opportunity to choose how to relate to his condition. He can rebel internally, he can find pleasure in the movement of his muscles, he can create meaning in the very act of resisting. This is Camus' rebellion, the discovery that our response to absurdity is more important than the absurdity itself. It is the realization that even without cosmic guarantees, we still have the extraordinary power to shape our internal experience. We don't change the world, we change our relationship with the world. This change in relationship is subtle but revolutionary. Instead of seeking external reasons to continue existing, we begin to exist as our own reason. Instead of asking permission from the universe, we begin to live as if our presence here is, in itself, enough. But this inner revolution does not happen in a day, and it certainly does not happen without resistance. Satisfaction does not come from finding answers. It comes from learning to ask better questions of yourself. The Camusian revolt does not end with a grand heroic gesture or a mystical revelation. It manifests itself in the quiet decision to wake up tomorrow and continue participating in existence without asking anyone's permission. It is the daily choice to inhabit a world that offers no guarantees, but still pulsates with infinite possibilities. When you accept that there is no cosmic instruction manual for human life, something strange happens. You stop looking for it. And when you stop looking for absolute answers in places that never had them, you have the energy to create your own temporary, imperfect, but genuinely your own answers. This is the most radical freedom there is. The freedom to construct meaning without needing it to be eternal. It's like discovering that you can paint a picture without it having to last forever, that you can love someone without that love having to be destiny, that you can work on something without it having to be your cosmic mission. Camus realized that the absurdity of existence is not a problem to be solved. It is a condition to be danced. And dancing with the absurd requires a very specific kind of courage. The courage to create values knowing that they are not absolute, to love knowing that love is not eternal, to build knowing that everything will be destroyed. There is something deeply human about this dance. We are the only species we know of capable of looking at the void and deciding to fill it with our own inventions. We are the only ones who can perceive the absence of cosmic meaning and still choose to create personal meaning. This does not make us special in the eyes of the universe, but it does make us extraordinary in our own eyes. The satisfaction Camus speaks of is not the satisfaction of someone who has found the ultimate truth. It is the satisfaction of someone who has stopped searching for ultimate truths and started living temporary truths with total intensity. It's like the difference between spending your life looking for the perfect song and learning to dance to whatever song is playing. When Stephen Hawking said he was free in his mind, he was describing exactly that. The discovery that our deepest freedom happens in the inner territory of consciousness, where no external force can dictate how we should relate to our own existence. This inner freedom manifests itself in surprisingly simple ways. It is the ability to find pleasure in a trivial conversation, to be moved by an ordinary sunset, to feel gratitude for being alive even without knowing why being alive should be a reason for gratitude. It's as if, when you stop demanding that life makes sense, it starts to make a different kind of sense. Not cosmic, but intimate. An absurd life is not a sad life. It is an honest life. It is a life that stops pretending to have certainties it does not have, that stops seeking guarantees that do not exist, that stops demanding promises from the universe that it never made. And in this radical honesty, an unexpected form of peace emerges. The peace of those who no longer need to justify themselves to anyone, not even to themselves. Perhaps nihilism is really the last gift that life gives us, not because it teaches us that nothing matters, but because it frees us from the need for everything to matter. When you no longer need your existence to be justified cosmically, you can begin to exist with the full intensity of someone who knows that every moment is simultaneously insignificant and precious. Sisyphus pushes his rock up the mountain, and the rock rolls down the mountain. And the moment he descends to retrieve it again, there is a silent choice taking place. He can descend carrying the weight of eternity, or he can descend carrying the lightness of someone who has discovered that he does not need to carry the weight of eternity. Camus' rebellion is this paradoxical lightness. The discovery that we are free to create our own weights, our own meanings, our own reasons for continuing to descend the mountain after the rock. And perhaps in the end, the only thing that really matters is not whether our life has meaning, but whether we manage to live as if it does, even though we know it may not. When was the last time you felt truly free to be yourself, without having to justify your existence to anyone? Write in the comments. If you've made it this far, you've already taken a step beyond most people. You watch the videos. You reflect on each idea. Now the question is, how far do you want to go with this? If you want to take the next step and truly apply this knowledge to your life, the White Rabbit codes are ready for you. The link is in the pinned comment. Remember, success is a decision. The choice is yours. Count on me and follow the White Rabbit.